The night air was sharp, still carrying the bitter bite of mountain pine. In the rescue center's shadows, an 85-pound bobcat pressed his scarred body against cold steel. Juno. Muscles coiled, golden eyes reflecting a glint of moonlight. The latch had not clicked. Weak, loose, careless. A growl rumbled low as he shoved hard. Metal scraped, then gave way. The door swung open, and he was gone, paws whispering over dirt, chest pounding with the ancient rhythm of freedom. Not random, not wild wandering, he moved with purpose. He could smell it, faint but familiar. Wood smoke, old wool, the scent of a man who once carried him home. Juno was not running into wilderness. He was running toward Harold Boone. Across the valley, in a cabin tucked deep beneath leaning pines, Harold Boone stirred from shallow sleep. 72, with a frame carved by decades of logging, his chest still broad, though his hands trembled with age. His face was a map of deep lines, beard silver and thick, nose bent from long ago breaks. Tonight his dreams had soured, the kind that made old men wake with a prayer on cracked lips. He lit the lantern, the glow painting his worn cheeks. On the mantel rested a faded flannel, faint with a musky scent, Juno's fur. Harold pressed his palm to it, whispering, "You still out there, boy?" In the silence he felt it, some tether stretched across the dark. His heart thudded heavy, as if the animal was already near. At sunrise, a truck rumbled over gravel into Boone's yard. Claire Donovan, Harold's granddaughter, stepped down. 20, slim but steady, her auburn hair tucked beneath the faded ball cap. She had her mother's pale green eyes, sharp with concern. Veterinary assistant in town, but more than that, she was the one who still believed the stories her grandfather told. She carried a satchel of supplies, hugging her jacket against the chill. "Grandpa," she called, stepping inside. His eyes flickered toward her, restless. "Something's wrong," Harold muttered. Claire noticed the flannel, the way he held it like scripture. She knew at once. Juno. Her stomach tightened with a strange mix of fear and hope. She didn't need Harold's words. She felt it too. Something wild had moved in the night. Meanwhile, at the county ranger station, radios crackled with unease. Captain Warren Holt leaned over the map spread on the desk. Mid-50s, barrel-chested, his jaw square and weathered from years in uniform. His gray eyes carried no softness, only caution. The call had come before dawn, an enclosure empty. Claw marks on steel, paw tracks leading north. Holt tapped the map with a thick finger. "Shoot on sight." His voice was gravel, absolute. "This isn't a pet, this is a predator." Around him, deputies shifted, some nodding quick. Holt had lost men before to wild things. He wouldn't lose another. Outside the window, the forest lay quiet, but Holt's order carried like a thunderclap. Juno's freedom had lasted less than one night before a rifle was aimed his way. Among the rangers, one face flinched. Officer Jessica Moran, late 20s, dark blonde hair pulled tight beneath her cap, stood stiff with her notebook. Her blue eyes tracked Holt, but wavered at his words. She had seen the reports, but also the grainy footage. Juno trailing Boone's cabin years back, never attacking, always watching. Jessica wasn't a dreamer like Boone or Claire, but she trusted instinct, and something about Holt's order rattled her. She scribbled notes, yet her mind whispered a question she dared not voice. What if the cat wasn't prowling to kill, but searching to return? She snapped the notebook shut, exhaling slow. Somewhere in those trees, golden eyes watched, and Jessica felt a tremor of doubt, stronger than Holt's steel certainty. By mid-morning, Harold stood at the edge of his yard, cane pressed into the frozen soil. Beside him, Claire crouched low, tracing fresh impressions in the dirt. Large, round, claws sheathed, bobcat tracks. Her breath misted as she whispered, "He was here." Harold's eyes glistened, shadowed by years but lit with sudden fire. The scent of pine and damp earth lingered, as if Juno's musk still hung in the air. Claire reached out, brushing the track with trembling fingers, her pulse hammering. Somewhere, close, a branch cracked. Both froze. Harold gripped his cane tighter, every line of his body drawn toward the forest. Juno was near, so near that the silence felt alive. Neither spoke, but both knew this wasn't coincidence. He was coming home. Water trickled over smooth stones, carrying the sharp scent of trout and algae. Juno crouched at the creek's edge, shoulders rippling beneath his thick coat. His amber eyes scanned the tree line, ears twitching to every bird call. The chill bit his paws, but instinct urged him forward. He lapped the water, nose twitching. There it was again, Harold's scent. Fainter now, but undeniable. His whiskers quivered, throat vibrating in a deep purr only nature could shape. From the brush above, Claire's phone shook in her grip. She filmed quietly, heart hammering. For one suspended breath, her lens captured him. Feral, scarred, magnificent. When Juno's eyes lifted to meet hers across the water, Claire's breath caught. For a second, predator and granddaughter were bound by the same blood-tied pull. The video traveled faster than Claire expected, shared, whispered, shown in town by afternoon. Captain Warren Holt slammed his fist on the table when he saw it. "So he's prowling this close," Holt barked, gray eyes cold as steel. Around him, the ranger room went still. "And some fool's feeding this fire." He paced, boots thudding heavy, the weight of authority pressing with every word. Holt didn't just see an animal. He saw liability, lawsuits, blood on the ground if he didn't act. Double the patrols, expand the search grid, and find whoever's behind that footage. His hand hovered over the rifle leaning by the wall. Holt believed in control, and control was slipping. To him, Juno wasn't coming home. He was circling prey. That night, Jessica Moran sat in her truck at the edge of the forest, headlights dimmed. The radio buzzed with Holt's orders, but she kept her finger off the transmit button. She could still see the image from the video, the way Juno's eyes softened, the way Claire's gasp was half awe, half relief. Jessica's stomach churned with conflict. Protocol screamed at her, "Follow orders." Yet something deeper, quieter, whispered, "Look closer." She thought of Harold Boone, the old man clutching his lantern like a shield. Maybe Juno wasn't hunting the town. Maybe he was hunting memory, belonging. Jessica shut her eyes, hearing only the wind rattling branches and a distant owl's call. "Don't make me your enemy," she whispered into the night. The following dawn, a tan Jeep rolled into the ranger station lot. Out stepped Dr. Meredith Shaw, 40s, tall and graceful in a weathered field jacket. Her dark auburn hair streaked with silver framed a face sharp with intelligence, yet softened by empathy. Green-gray eyes scanned the Pine Ridge like she'd studied it 100 times. She carried notebooks, a camera, a tranquilizer case, not rifles. "You called me in because you're spooked," she told Holt with calm conviction, her voice low and even. "But this isn't a monster on the loose. This is a bond at work." Holt scowled, bristling at her calm certainty. Jessica, listening nearby, felt a quiet relief. Finally, someone spoke aloud what she had only dared to think. Juno wasn't running wild, he was going home. Harold Boone rose before dawn, lantern swaying as he walked the edge of the timberline. His breath came heavy, the chill gnawed at his bones, yet his eyes searched every shadow. 72, beard silver like frost, his broad chest carried by will more than strength. He whispered Juno's name into the trees. The night held it, pine needles trembling as if listening. Then, silence. But Harold felt it, unseen eyes on him, breath carried on the wind. His heart skipped. Juno was watching. He raised his hand, fingers trembling, as though reaching for something more than an animal, reaching for the years when he wasn't alone. Lantern light flickered across his weathered face, the glow a beacon in the darkness, guiding something wild back home. Claire tucked a paper bag into her coat as she hiked toward the creek. Inside was jerky,
wrapped in cloth that still smelled faintly of Harold's cabin. Her boots crunched frost, heart thudding with every step. She knew Holt would call this reckless. She didn't care. Kneeling at the water's edge, she set the bag near a rock, glancing over her shoulder. The forest breathed around her, damp moss, sharp pine, a crow's distant call. Then a sound, soft, deliberate. She froze. Golden eyes shimmered from the brush, cautious yet drawn. Her breath caught. Juno's gaze locked with hers, and though her pulse screamed danger, she whispered, "Come home." For one heartbeat, predator and granddaughter shared the same fragile hope. Then he vanished into shadow.
The ranger station burned with tension. Holt slammed a folder shut, his gravel voice filling the room. "That cat has been fed," he growled, eyes narrowing on the patrol reports. "Someone's helping it." His stare swept across the room, cold and accusing. "Find out who, or I'll bring in shooters from out of county." His thick hands clenched the desk edge, knuckles white. To Holt, mercy meant weakness, and weakness cost lives. He had no patience for Claire's compassion, Harold's talk of bonds, or Shaw's science. This ends in daylight, not another night of fear. His rifle leaned against the wall, polished and ready. Outside, the forest stood tall and quiet. Inside, Holt's ultimatum rattled every soul, especially those who weren't sure they agreed. Jessica Moran lingered by the lockers, the words still ringing in her ears. Shooters from out of county. She stared at her reflection in the small metal mirror. Blue eyes, wide with doubt, framed by lashes damp from tears she hadn't meant to shed. She thought of Harold, lantern in hand, whispering into trees as if they were family. She thought of Claire's trembling courage by the creek. She thought of Juno's gaze, fierce yet tethered. Her chest ached with the weight of divided duty. She unclipped her radio, setting it down. For the first time in her career, she would not echo Holt's orders. Instead, she pulled on her cap, steadied her breath, and stepped into the cold night. She would find Harold Boone herself.
Dr. Meredith Shaw stood by the map, calm but unwavering. Her auburn hair caught the lamplight, silver threads shimmering like steel. "You're misreading this," she told Holt. "Predators kill for territory. Juno isn't hunting, he's homing." Her green-gray eyes locked with his, voice low but sharp. "That animal isn't circling the town, he's circling Boone. Every track, every sighting points inward, not outward." Holt's jaw tightened, but Shaw pressed forward. "You want control? Then stop fighting instinct. This bond is stronger than your rifles." Jessica, lingering at the doorway, felt her chest loosen. Meredith had given voice to what her conscience screamed. Outside, the wind rustled, carrying pine and soil, as if the forest itself agreed. This wasn't chaos, it was return. The knock at Boone's cabin came before dawn. Jessica stood there, cap pulled low, radio silent on her belt. Her blue eyes looked restless, but determined. Harold, rubbing weary eyes, opened the door. "They'll send outsiders soon," Jessica said quietly. "We don't have time." She placed a folded map on his table, pointing to red-marked grids. "If you go into the search zone, Holt can't erase what happens. He'll have to see the truth with his own eyes." Harold's veteran face tightened. 72 years weighed heavy on his joints, yet something younger flickered in his chest. Juno was out there, waiting. Harold reached for his lantern, steadying his hand. "Then we go to him." The flame inside Harold matched the fire outside in the forest. Claire slipped out of town carrying another bundle of food wrapped in Harold's flannel. Her auburn hair caught dawn's light, and her green eyes darted nervously as patrol trucks rattled past. She ducked low, clutching the bag to her chest. A voice barked from behind, "Hey!" Her heart froze. She spun, only to see a farmer waving at someone else. Her breath rushed out, knees trembling. She pressed into the tree line, every sound amplified. Crows, snapping twigs, her heartbeat. At the creek, she set down the bundle. Juno emerged, his massive frame moving like liquid shadow.
amber eyes sharp yet soft when they fell on her. He sniffed, then pawed the flannel, nostrils flaring at Harold's scent. Claire whispered, "You're still his." She didn't see Holt's deputy watching from afar. By mid-afternoon, Holt spread a new map across his truck hood. His gray eyes hardened. "He's circling Boone's Ridge. We'll set a trap." He ordered a perimeter drawn tight, rifles stationed on the high ground. Holt believed in inevitability. Predators always returned to their source. He didn't realize his theory was right for the wrong reasons. This wasn't about prey, it was about home. Still, he loaded his rifle, fingers steady, chest swelling with cold authority. To him, Boone's age made him blind, Claire's compassion foolish, Shaw's science soft, and Moran's hesitation dangerous. Holt's plan was simple: one clean shot, end the noise. He didn't see how the forest itself bristled against him, every pine needle trembling with something older than law.
Dr. Meredith Shaw watched Holt's patrols fan out, her jaw tight. She felt the tension in the air like storm static, sharp and unrelenting. She stepped closer, her green-gray eyes burning. "You tighten the noose, you'll get chaos," she warned. "Corner a bobcat and you won't see fear, you'll see fury. Do you want blood on this ridge?" Holt's glare dismissed her, but Meredith didn't back down. She walked to Jessica, lowering her voice. "Keep Boone close. If Holt pulls that trigger, it will break him, and it will break the animal." Jessica nodded, her throat tight. Meredith's warning wasn't just scientific, it was human. She could sense it in the earth, in the silence of the birds. The ridge wasn't preparing for order, it was preparing for reckoning. Night fell, heavy and thick. Juno crouched on a rise above Boone's cabin, his massive chest heaving in silence. The air carried Harold's scent, wood smoke, lantern oil, old flannel, pulling at instincts deeper than hunger. Amber eyes blinked slow, ears twitching to the distant hum of engines, boots crunching on leaves. He could smell rifles, gun oil sharp in the air. Danger. But still he stayed. His whiskers quivered, his scarred face turning toward the cabin light glowing faintly through pine. He let out a low, guttural sound, not a roar, not a growl, but something softer, older. A call. And within the cabin, Harold stirred, lantern trembling in his hand, as if his heart had heard it. Their bond stretched across the dark, like fire through pine. Lantern in hand, Harold Boone walked straight into Holt's perimeter. His flannel hung loose on his old shoulders, silver beard catching the glow. "You'll stand down," Holt barked, rifle across his chest. But Harold's voice, cracked yet steady, cut through the night. "That cat ain't your enemy." He lifted the lantern higher, its flame flickering like defiance. Holt's gray eyes narrowed, fury tight on his jaw. Deputy shifted uneasily, torn between law and the frail figure of a man who looked carved from the same pine around them. Jessica stepped forward, her cap shadowing blue eyes full of quiet fire. She stood near Boone, not Holt. The line was drawn. For the first time, Holt realized this wasn't just about a bobcat, it was about loyalty. From the tree line, Claire's voice cracked through the cold. She stepped into the light, auburn hair messy from wind, green eyes wet with tears. "Don't shoot," she cried, her arms outstretched. In her hand she held the flannel Juno had pawed, Harold's scent woven deep into it. Her breath trembled in the frozen air. "He's not hunting us, he's finding us." Every word was raw, desperate, born of a belief that felt older than law. Holt raised his rifle anyway, the barrel gleaming in lantern light. Claire's chest heaved, heart pounding against the silence. Jessica's hand twitched near her holster, not to draw, but to block. And from the darkness came the soft scrape of paws on stone. Juno was close enough to hear the trembling of her breath. Branches shifted, and Juno emerged, massive, scarred, his golden eyes burning with instinct and memory. The lantern glow shimmered across his thick coat, highlighting the ridges of muscle beneath. A low growl rumbled,
not feral rage, but a warning. Holt's finger tightened on the trigger. Deputies raised rifles in unison, their boots crunching frost. Meredith's voice rang sharp, cutting the tension. "Don't you dare!" Her green-gray eyes locked on Holt, voice cracking with fury. Harold stepped forward, cane trembling, lantern swaying. "Easy, boy," he whispered into the cold. The air was knife-sharp, every breath hanging like smoke. Juno's gaze fixed on Harold, ears twitching toward the lantern's hum. It wasn't prey he saw, it was home. But the rifles still followed every twitch of his chest. Jessica moved first. Her boots scraped gravel as she stepped between Holt's rifle and Juno's glowing eyes. Blue eyes steady now, her chest rose with deliberate calm. "You'll fire through me," she said, voice clear as steel. Holt's jaw clenched, his barrel twitching upward an inch. Deputies froze, some whispering, uneasy. Jessica's hand brushed the radio at her belt, but she left it silent. In her stillness, she carried more power than Holt's bark. Behind her, Harold's trembling hand reached outward, lantern light spilling across Juno's scarred face. Claire sobbed, clutching the flannel to her chest. Meredith exhaled sharp, as though holding the forest's last breath. And in that charged pause, even Holt felt it, the shift. This wasn't about order anymore. It was about faith.
The night broke in silence. Juno padded one step closer, shoulders rippling, paws soundless on frozen earth. His amber eyes fixed on Harold, ignoring rifles, ignoring threats. Each step was slow, deliberate, carrying the weight of something older than fear. Harold's breath hitched, lantern trembling in his weathered hand. He whispered, "Come home, boy." Claire pressed the flannel to her chest, whispering the same words through trembling lips. Juno stopped just short, his chest heaving, whiskers twitching as Harold's scent filled the air. Holt's rifle quivered, gray eyes hard, but his resolve cracking at the edges. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. The predator had come home, but whether this moment ended in reunion or in blood depended on the next heartbeat. Harold lifted the lantern high, its glow painting deep lines across his face. Juno stopped just beyond the reach of its light, muscles taut, golden eyes locked on the man who once raised him. The forest was hushed, no owl, no wind, only the steady crackle of flame. "You remember," Harold whispered, voice breaking, "don't you, boy?" Juno lowered his head, ears twitching. The scent of oil, flannel, and Harold's breath filled his senses. A rumble left his throat, not anger, but recognition. Claire sobbed behind him, whispering prayers. Jessica's chest ached, hands clenched at her sides. Holt's rifle dipped an inch, though his gray eyes stayed cold. And yet, something older than law was at work. The lantern burned like a bridge, binding man and beast in fragile trust. Holt's breath steamed in the cold as he steadied the rifle again. His finger hovered, jaw grinding hard. The forest seemed to lean against him, pressing with silence, testing his resolve. Jessica's blue eyes cut into him, unwavering, her body still blocking his line. Meredith's voice, sharp as steel, sliced the night. "You pull that trigger, you kill more than a cat, you kill him!" Her green-gray eyes flicked to Harold, lantern raised, frail arms trembling, yet strong in faith. Claire pressed forward, tears streaming, auburn hair damp with mist. Holt's hands shook. For a man built on control, that tremor was betrayal. He stared at Juno, scarred but steady, not attacking, not fleeing, simply waiting. Holt's grip loosened.
The rifle lowered, and for the first time, Holt felt doubt. Harold stepped closer, each pace weighted with years, each breath trembling with both fear and hope. The lantern swayed in his hand, casting circles of light on frozen ground. Juno stayed rooted, eyes wide, body quivering, not with rage, but recognition. Harold extended his other hand, scarred and weathered. "You're still mine, aren't you, boy?" The bobcat's whiskers twitched. Slowly, impossibly, Juno bowed his head until his nose brushed the old man's palm. A sound broke from Harold, half sob, half prayer. Tears slid down his cheeks, glistening in firelight. Claire gasped, pressing hands to her mouth. Jessica felt her chest crack wide open. Even Holt stood frozen, rifle forgotten at his side. It wasn't beast and man anymore. It was father and son, found again in the dark.
The world seemed to exhale at once. Owls called again. A breeze stirred pine needles, carrying Harold's lantern flame higher. Juno pressed closer, his thick coat brushing Harold's knees, amber eyes soft in the glow. Claire knelt, auburn hair falling loose, whispering, "You're home." Jessica lowered her cap, silent tears streaking her cheeks. Meredith's jaw unclenched, her shoulders dropping in relief. Even Holt, rigid, unbending Holt, turned away, gray eyes wet despite himself. The rifles lowered, one by one, like a tide pulling back. The forest that had bristled with tension now hummed with quiet reverence. For that moment, predator and prey, law and defiance, fear and faith all stilled. The bond had won, and it was stronger than iron, stronger than rifles, stronger than Holt's command. Harold sank to his knees, lantern trembling beside him. Juno stayed pressed against him, scarred head bent, chest heaving with steady breaths. Claire wrapped her arms around both, auburn hair mingling with silver beard, whispering thanks through tears. Jessica stood guard in silence, shoulders squared not for law, but for love. Meredith rested a hand on Harold's shoulder, green-gray eyes shimmering with awe. Holt lingered at the edge, rifle slack, face carved by a crack he could no longer hide. The lantern flame swayed, its glow spilling into the forest like dawn itself. "We'll go home, boy," Harold whispered, voice raw but sure. And in that fragile light, man and beast, separated by years, reunited by something greater, walked together again, step by step, into the waiting dark.